Hey, so I had an epiphany this morning during one of my counseling sessions that is part of my transformation process is to go to counseling about some issues that have been left undealt with in my life. And so one of the main issues that I have is like broken relationships. And from childhood all the way up to presently, and needing to be validated in certain relationships, especially those that stem from parents, siblings, family members, and friendships. And so I was going about my day and I had an epiphany. Can't say it was devotional time, which I try to have, but it doesn't always work out that way. And rejection and dealing with, I guess, relationships that I tend to attract relationships that hurt me, or relationships that, I go all in, trusting, where I give my all. And I was reminded of a scripture about a person that's wanting a friend and to be loved, how they give love, or a friend must first show himself friendly. And so what came to me, I was like, God, in I guess subconsciously thinking is like, God, why do the people that I love tend to hurt me? And it's like these relationships, they might change people, but it's like a pattern that's in these relationships. And it was like, because you haven't, after all the trials and the tribulations, you haven't really dealt with issues that are within yourself, or you go to the next relationship anxious to give, anxious to love, and anxious to receive. And there are some areas in your life, that man, woman, friend, that people will never be able to fill that God void that's in your life, or even that void that only some things that you yourself can fulfill. And I was like, wow. So he was like, you keep experiencing the same thing over and over because you have not gotten that revelation. There are some things that are not meant for you to wholeheartedly give yourself to man or to people, because he said even Jesus didn't give himself wholeheartedly to men, to his disciples, or to men, period, because he knew what operated in the hearts of men. And if you don't know what's operating in your heart, unless I reveal it to you, then how can you trust the heart of man that I haven't revealed to you those things, or you haven't allowed me to deal with those issues that are inwardly operating in you, whether for fault or if it benefits you, or you just really don't know that's there. So if I can't reveal you to you, how can I reveal to you the heart of men? And it was like, because you're too trusting, um, you're too needy, and you're needy in these areas that people can't meet you in. And I was like, wow, because it seemed like in friendships or even in romantic relationships, they do the same thing over and over again. And it's because I don't have healthy boundaries mentally or emotionally, or an understanding of myself inwardly as well, those boundaries within myself, to establish and set standards and boundaries that are healthy. And so what I do is try to switch in another situation or circumstance, and I do the same things over and over and over again. So that was a revelation that I got. It was like, not that these people are not called to your life, but you have to have and relate to them in a healthy and a just balance, emotional, mentally, and spiritually. And until you get that, then you're left wide open for the weaknesses or the deficiencies within yourself or in others to feed on one another. So it's like whatever is void in them attracts what's void in me, or what's full in me, because they have a need and I have a need, and we're both left deficient. Because until you or I get whole in that area, then it's going to have an unfulfilled expectation one of another. And in some instances, they're not meant to meet that need, and neither am I. And so that's that God void that's in there that I have perpetually lived over and over and over again. And it was like, if you give too much, if you withhold too much, if you expect too much, if there's an unjust just balance in any area, then you're gonna be void. You're gonna put expectation on people that they can't meet, whether it's too high or whether it's too low. And like say for example, an expectation for them, if you say, "Oh, I need someone to be this and that," and they know that expectation, then of course they can't always be there for you. And then the moment that they're not there for you, that you feel let down because you put in that expectation for somebody to fulfill a loneliness or something that's inside of you that you yourself need to face it and you yourself need to confront it. And so with that, it's like that's something that I need to confront and deal with. And so I'm having to process the pain, and that was my assignment, was to process the pains, to identify, to acknowledge, and to process the pains that are in my life, that because these perpetual cycles, you have adapted to a dysfunction, or you have adapted to a dysfunction because you really don't know that is a dysfunction, because that's who you've been and what you've done all along. And until I came to a place where I really, really wanted to change, I couldn't blame everybody else and everything else for not meeting those needs of where I was insufficient in, inwardly and emotionally and mentally. And it just changes your perception to see you and to see how others see you and how others relate to you, because I had an improper way of relating to myself. So in processing that pain from issues with my father and different things like that, it's like, you know, until I'm able to identify those things and deal with it, and figure out the whys within myself, then I can expect to keep having those same patterns. Revelation.